Hey, what's up guys, it's Nick2, and today I'm going to be showing you guys an absolutely insane Prismatic Titan build that was made even stronger with the addition of the new exotic class item. Not only do we get Syntheseps for a ridiculous melee damage increase, allowing us to hit for over 600,000 per melee, but we can also just spam that melee back to back due to the insane amount of ability regen that we get with our mods, also allowing us to spam our grenade like crazy. But because we have Heart of Endless Light on our class item as well, we can just use our abilities like Madmen. Not only that, each time we get a kill with a melee, we're going to get a disgusting amount of buffs. In addition to nearly full healing ourselves every time we get a kill, we're also going to get Radiant for some huge weapon damage with our Call that just annihilates everything and is going to give us grenade energy back. We get Woven Mail or Frost Armor based on preference, which is going to give us a lot of damage reduction and survivability. We get Amplified for that really nice movement speed. And we get our super back really quickly, which actually does a crazy amount of damage nowadays. We're also going to be building our Transcendence meter really fast so we can spam our abilities even more and just destroy the entire screen like we've always wanted. This build is super fast paced and it's a ridiculous amount of fun being able to just spam your abilities and one-shotting most high health monsters with your melee and just clearing out the entire screen with ease. I would say this is overall the most well-rounded version of pretty much any Prismatic build because you just have access to everything. You have that damage reduction, you get your super back really quickly, you do a crazy amount of weapon damage, and you have a melee that you can pretty much kill any major with anytime you want to. So overall, this is by far my favorite Prismatic build. Before we hop into the build, I want to give a big thanks to today's sponsor, Mobalytics. This build will be posted over on there, but Mobalytics also has a crazy amount of build guides if you're interested in seeing other interesting builds for Warlock, Titan, Hunter, etc. There's a ton of stuff here, PvP, PvE, Grandmaster Nightfall, there's a crazy amount of stuff. And what's also really nice is they have exotic weapon tier lists, exotic weapon guides, so you can learn how to get some of those, and even weapon god rolls, which is really helpful to just look at. Crazy amount of information here. Highly recommend checking it out. And again, the build link will be in the description. When it comes to explaining the crux of the build, basically we are taking advantage of Consecration, which is the highest damaging melee that Titan has access to on Prismatic, and we're pairing that with Knockout so that it gets a 50% damage increase, and every time we kill an enemy it is going to also give us Amplify and is going to heal us. This also has the added benefit of making your normal melee, anytime you are amplified or you have Knockout active, becoming a powered melee, so to speak. So if you just use your normal melee and get a kill, it will proc Heavy Handed for Orbs of Power and some other synergies which we'll talk about later. But mainly we are using this for Consecration, and we pair this with Frenzied Blade because it gives us multiple charges. And because we have multiple charges and we have so much ability regen, we can pretty much bank up those charges, and then by the time that we expend 2 or 3 of them, we'll have another one back. When it comes to the other melee options, I briefly want to just go over them because I did test each of them, and I just want to talk about them for you guys. So overall, Consecration is the highest damage melee that we have access to. It does 43k and 50k, so a total of 93k. The other options are Thunderclap with a full charge doing 75k, and the Strand melee by itself only does 27k. The Strand melee has the benefit of working with 1-2 punch if you wanted to do that, but if you wanted to just have a build fully around Frenzied Blade, you would be better off just playing Strand Titan, right? The main benefit of Consecration is it's really high damage, it ignites so it blows everything up, it has a really large radius, but also it is a light ability, so we are going to be building our light Transcendence really quickly by using a Consecration and by using a light grenade. And then we use a darkness weapon to build up our darkness damage, or our darkness Transcendence meter. Like I mentioned, we can get our melee to hit for over 600,000 damage. Unfortunately, because it hits in 2 separate instances of damage, you can only see the number of the highest damage number if you actually one-shot the mob. But quickly, I just want to show you guys the math on it. So if you have Consecrate with Knockout, that's a 50% damage increase, so it goes from 93k to 141k. And then if you have Syntheseps, that is a 165% damage increase, so the total goes up to 113 plus 134, being a total of 247. And then if you add Consecration and Knockout together, or sorry, Syntheseps and Knockout, you get 169 and 201, so that is 370. And then when you add Shield Crush, which is the artifact mod, which we will have access to all of the time, giving us a ton of additional ability regeneration, but also 35% damage increase to our melee and our grenade. Because we have access to that, we get an additional 35%, buffing it up to 228 plus 271. And then you can add Weaken on top of that in the form of Tractor Cannon being 25%, or you can add like a Weaken Grenade with Void if you wanted to, and that goes up to 285 plus 338, which is 623k. If you wanted even more damage, you could use Facet of Courage, but you'd have to apply Darkness debuff somehow, and this is only a 10% damage increase. For most intents and purposes, you will just be having Syntheseps, Knockout, and Shield Crush, giving you 228 and 271, which is roughly like 500,000 damage. So you can just walk around spamming a 500,000 damage melee. I already mentioned you're going to be wanting to have a class item with Syntheseps and with Heart of Inmost Light. This is obviously pretty hard to get, and it took quite a while to farm. But if you just have Syntheseps, you can get anything else in the other slot. Your ability regen will be a little bit slower, so you'll just have to rely on your gun damage a bit more. But once you get Syntheseps and Inmost Light, you get a crazy amount of ability regen. Just remember that Inmost Light is only for the ability regen. It is not actually going to be giving you additional damage like it would normally. But Syntheseps still gives you the full damage bonus. It just does not benefit your super. Because we have Heart of Inmost Light and a lot of our mods, we're able to get our abilities back ridiculously quickly. This is also helped tremendously by having the Call, which can roll Demolitionist on it, which is crazy. And because this does Strand damage and a crap load of Strand damage at that, you're able to build up your Dark Transcendence meter really quickly, and then you're able to build up your Light meter really fast because you're using the Consecration, getting a lot of AoE kills there, and you can just pair that with Sunshot or any other light weapon of your choosing, maybe Red Death or something. And you get a ridiculous amount of light damage by just popping a few kills. Boom, you can pretty much fill up the light meter, and you just build up both meters really fast. Rounding out the build with our fragments, I would say a lot of these are preference. The mandatory ones, in my opinion, is going to be Facet of Purpose. Anytime you pick up an orb, based on whatever super you have, you will get a buff. So for example, you want to be using a Darkness super, in my opinion here, either being a Glacial Quake or Blade Fury, because this is going to give you a crazy amount of damage reduction. Glacial Quake will give you Frost Armor, which is a lot of DR. And that buff also lasts for 10 seconds, so you'll have it active a lot so that you permanently have the Shield Crush buff active. Am I getting attacked? I'm getting mortared on, dude. So you'll permanently have Frost Armor up, which is what I prefer, but if you wanted to have a little bit more damage reduction, you can go for Woven Mail. It only lasts for 5 seconds, but it is higher damage reduction overall. The next one I would say is mandatory is Facet of Balance. Anytime you get a multi-kill with light damage, it will give you melee energy. It seems to be in the range of 7% per 3 kills. So if you get 3 kills with your melee, boom, you just get some melee energy back. And same thing if you use like your Sunshot. And then the reverse is the same for darkness damage. So when you get a couple kills with the Call, you'll get more grenade energy. You pair that with Demolitionist, you get 3 kills, and you pretty much just got like 40% of your grenade energy back immediately. So that is pretty crazy. I round out the build with Facet of Protection, just giving me more damage reduction overall, and it gives 10 strength, which is really helpful. And then I also go for Facet of Honor. Anytime we collect an elemental pickup, we're going to get Transcendence energy of that same type. I'm mainly using this for the strength, but also it does help with your Transcendence overall because we are generating pickups. We are generating Tangles a lot. Anytime we get kills with the Call, we'll generate some Tangles. And because I have Facet of Awakening on, if we get rapid kills with any sort of damage, we will generate an elemental pickup. So we get rapid kills with Consecration, we will generate a Fire Sprite, which will give us grenade energy, and it will give us even more light energy. And then because we are getting multi-kills with our Call, this is on a separate cooldown, so we'll be spawning some Tangles there, and we can even get Ionic Traces with our Pulse Grenade if it gets a multi-kill. Generally, that's what I'd recommend. If you want Unraveling rounds on your the Call, then Facet of Bravery instead of Facet of Awakening is pretty good. There's also these ones that give you additional Transcendence energy based on defeating enemies with certain types. There's just Sacrifice and Devotion here. I've tested both of them. I think the Transcendence energy is fine without them, and the amount that you get is like 1/10 of the opposite. So if you get a kill with a light damage, the amount of Transcendent energy you get is like this, and then the amount of darkness energy you get from using the fragment is like this. It's like literally 10% of it. So it seems not really all that mandatory, and I think you overall will get more Transcendence energy by having Facet of Honor in addition to Facet of Awakening, which also gives you stats that you really care about. When it comes to your stats, mainly the strength of this build is the melee, and spamming your melee also feeds into your grenade. So you want to have really high strength and really high discipline. My gear is pretty weak, but you could, with really good gear, get 100 strength, 100 discipline, and 100 resilience. 90 to 80 resilience is perfectly fine because you get a lot of damage reduction via the fragment and having Frost Armor or Woven Mail. And then just the discipline is nice because you get a lot of flat regen, so you get your grenade back really quickly. Your grenade is there, kind of just throw it. You get a lot of light energy, but because of Heart of Inmost Light, it'll also help you get your melee back. You also get damage reduction while being amplified with Galvanic Armor, and anytime you pick up an Orb of Power, which we're going to be constantly doing anytime we just get a kill with a melee, we're going to be becoming Radiant for that 25% damage increase, and because we have Radiant and Amplified Perma, we will get the damage increase with our grenade, which is 35%, and the additional regen. I'm not sure how much regen it is. It seemed to knock off about 20 seconds total of the cooldown. And same thing for our melee. We will permanently have Frost Armor active, which is why I prefer Frost Armor over Woven Mail there, because it lasts for 10 seconds rather than 5. So we have more consistency with that buff. You could spawn or get Void Overshields additionally if you wanted to use, this is like a little side thing here. You could use a Suppressor Grenade and then the fragment that makes Void Grenades weaken, and then because you're defeating weakened targets, you would get access to the Void Overshield here. You don't really need this at all in my opinion, and I like having the Pulse Grenade, but if you wanted to consistently apply Weaken for just a bit more damage, that is definitely something you could do. As you can see here, I also do not have, Transference yet, but if I had Transference, when I'm Transcendent, I get even more damage with some of my abilities. I think it's 10%. I could be making that up, let me know in the comments. And you also get a little bit of your Transcendent energy back, which is pretty nice, but I would definitely get Shield Crush first. When it comes to rounding out the build in total, Heavy-Handed is unbelievably insane. Anytime we just get a kill with a powered melee, we're going to spawn orbs. We want to have 2 of these so that the internal cooldown on this is lower, so we can have much higher uptime on our frozen armor, etc. And keep in mind that anytime that you, for whatever reason, if you don't have a melee cooldown available, if you just get a kill with your melee while you have knockout on, it will count as a powered melee for these Orbs of Power. And getting Orbs of Power is really important for our armor charges, giving us a damage increase here with Strand Weapon Surge. We also reduce our melee cooldown anytime we pick up an orb, and it's going to give us that frozen armor, that radiant, etc. On the helmet, I like to have Strand and a Solar Siphon to just get even more Orbs of Power. Alternatively, you could swap out the Solar Siphon because I'm mainly using the Call with this build, and I just swap to the Solar Weapon here and there. And then you can go for something like Hands-On to just get a lot of super energy back. On the gloves, again, I have Heavy-Handed twice, and then I have 1 Impact Induction. This really helps with your grenade cooldown, but if you wanted to spawn even more orbs for your boys or just get your super back quicker, you could go for triple Heavy-Handed so it has pretty much no cooldown, and you spawn a ridiculous amount of orbs that way. On the chest, I just go for triple DR, melee DR, concussive, and sniper. That is really good. And then on the boots, again, Invigoration, so I get a little bit of my melee cooldown back each time I pick up an orb. And I have double Strand Weapon Surge, so we get 17% damage for our weapon, in addition to the 25% with Radiant. And then if you also get Adrenaline Junkie, that's another 33%. So your call is going to be owning. And you could also add Unraveling Rounds to that too, so it just does crazy damage. And then on our class item here, I went for Time Dilation, so our armor charges just last longer. This is honestly kind of optional. I just think it's a little helpful just so the Strand Weapon Surges last. It makes it last for 45 seconds if I have 3 charges rather than 30, so is what it is. Alternatively, I like having Reaper on because we do use our class ability a lot, so this just helps with overall orb generation. You could also just go for like Outreach or Double Bomber or something if you wanted even more ability regen, but my regen feels pretty fine how it is. And again, when it comes to weapons, I would highly recommend, the only thing I'd say is mandatory is the Call. You can craft this and get Demolitionist and Adrenaline Junkie. Golden Tricorn isn't going to work for you because your melee is not Strand, because you're using Consecration. You could get a kill with Frenzied Blade here and there, because it will give you some Darkness energy, but overall you want to be using your Consecrate, right? So ideally, Adrenaline Junkie is just 33% damage that you have quite a lot, or you can get Vorpal like I have, but that's like way more conditional. One for All is also pretty good, but again, I would just go Demolitionist and Adrenaline Junkie. In this slot, you can go for whatever you want. Still Hunt is really good. You could, like, running double special is pretty good because the ammo economy on the Call is really nice. So if you don't feel like you need the ad clear with Sunshot or Red Death or even Graviton Lance, which is really good, feel free to use whatever you want. I would just recommend using a light weapon so that it counts for the light Transcendence bar, because you're already generating so much Darkness Transcendence with the Call. And then in your machine gun slot, you can actually craft this weapon with Demolitionist, Adrenaline Junkie, I believe. I'll have a link in the description. I don't remember exactly what this can roll, but I believe you can craft it with that. As long as you just get Demolitionist on like a machine gun or something, that is quite good. But obviously, feel free to use whatever you want in the heavy. It doesn't really matter because you're just doing so much damage with your melee and all of your abilities. Macrocosm would be really good too, and you could also just use like a No Hesitation in this slot for just some ad clear, if you wanted to just have Macrocosm to absolutely nuke bosses. Real quick, I want to give a gameplay demonstration and just give you guys a few tips with the build. One thing I want to recommend is if you're doing higher end content or you just want more survivability, you can swap out Invigoration for Recuperation. Anytime you pick up an Orb of Power, you will heal. This basically makes it to where if you just get a melee kill, you will full heal, because Knockout will give you about 30% HP, and then this will too, so you'll pretty much just full heal anytime you get a kill. One of the main things to keep in mind with this build is that you want to be using your abilities kind of cyclically. You don't want to use all of them instantly. You want to like swap between get a kill with your melee, throw your grenade, use your thruster, because of the way that Heart of Inmost Light is going to give you a lot of that ability regen. Another thing to keep in mind is look at your light and darkness transcendence meter and then play accordingly. You can, if you realize that you're just about to max out your darkness meter, but your light meter is already full, then you can start to use, like, you can swap weapons to the call, get some, just like shoot your weapon a little bit rather than using your melee ability, and then you can fill your meter, and the opposite can be true as well. If your darkness meter is full, but your light meter isn't, swap to Sunshot or whatever else you have, or make sure to like try to throw your grenade and hit enemies with that, and then build up that meter, and then just use Transcendence whenever you want. One thing that I like to do is I usually try to get a melee kill right off of the rip, but sometimes you might not one-shot stuff if you don't have Syntheseps active, but like these guys, they don't have much HP, so I'll just one-shot them, and then I get that orb, and then I want to use my thruster to get my ability regen, and then I'll just get some kills with my call, whatever, get a tangle, get some energy regen there, and then I can just run around and do whatever I want, kill that guy with a normal melee, and that counts. And here I could either decide, do I want to use my melee and one-shot this dude, or do I want to spam my call and get a lot of ability regen? Kind of up to you, right? Or not ability regen, but like darkness regen. So you can kind of just spam, and look how much regen I have, right? Or sorry, look how much dark meter I have. So my meter's already full on darkness, so it's like, okay, now I can use my light abilities a little bit. So when I use my consecration here, I should build up all that light meter, boom. Get my Transcendence here, and as you saw, I got a Fire Sprite there because I got a multi-kill with the light damage. And keep in mind that you want to get some some weapon kills while you are in Transcendence if you have Transference, because you'll get a lot of your Transcendence meter back. So you can literally just spam not only your abilities, but also just be in Transcendence quite a lot if you make sure to chain it properly. And it's just a ton of fun. Like, these guys have a little bit more HP because technically you're under light fighting them than doing like a normal Lost Sector. I'm just whiffing my call like crazy. That's fun. But when you're actually in Transcendence, you just feel insanely powerful because you can just spam everything like crazy. Now I'm out of call ammo, so I could just start using my Sunshot. Boom, I got a little Fire Sprite there for some regen, use my thruster there, and now I can just spam this and I will get a lot of the darkness energy back. As you can see, use my grenade, that will give me some light energy. Got an Ionic Trace there, use my melee, yada yada yada. I just want to show you guys how much damage the Glacial Quake super does. It actually feels quite nice to use. That guy just got frozen. But it feels pretty nice to use relative to the Strand super. It just does a pretty crazy amount of damage. Keep in mind, that guy has like a ridiculous amount of health. That guy's like millions of HP. And then you can just pop your Transcendence and just blow up everything. The Transcendence grenade is really, really nice, being able to just suspend everything. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully some of those tips helped you guys out, and I hope that you enjoy the build. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. This overall is my favorite Prismatic build, and at least for Titan, and it just feels very, very consistent. You can do whatever you want at any moment. If you need to kill a large group of enemies with your melee, or you need to kill one enemy with your melee, you can just one-shot it, or you can just lean into using your weapons a lot, which are really powerful because of multiple different things that we have going on for us with the build. You have all the survivability. It just feels overall very versatile and well-rounded. It doesn't feel like you get stuck, or if you like make a mistake, something will mess up or whatever, and you get your abilities back so quickly that it just feels very, very fluid to play. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys later. Peace.